We call this simulation, "What do I care who owns it?" And at the heart of this activity is the economic concept of property rights. The nature of individuals' rights to property affects incentives, opportunity costs, and choices. Under different rules of property ownership, student farming teams will wrestle with the problem of deciding whether to sow their wheat seed or let the land lie fallow. To prepare for this activity, make one copy of the scenario for each student. Then copy the 3 roll cards on different colored paper and make enough of each color for 1/3 of the class members. Make one copy of the Who's Right handout for each group of 3. And prepare visuals of the scenario and the yield chart to project on the screen or the board. It's also a good idea to have a calculator for each student, or at least one for each group. Finally, have some sort of reward, like candy or bonus points, to reward teams that correctly use economic analysis to explain their position. Begin by having all students follow along as you read the scenario. Keep it projected on the screen for future reference. We have Sam and Nick, or Samantha and Nikki, who are siblings. They've proudly followed the farming tradition of their family. Samantha has recently purchased a 200... Then divide the students into groups of 3, and if necessary, a couple groups of 4. Have them choose parts so that there is a Sam, a Nick, and a mom or a dad in each group. Groups of 4 will have both a mom and a dad. Students can then read their own roll card and prepare their case to present to the parents. Incentivize the teams by explaining that any group that arrives at a decision and can support their decision with economic reasoning wins a prize. As students are working, walk around and answer questions. Be sure to take the teacher guides to the roll cards with you so you can check their math along the way. These are your 2 different alternatives. So by calculating your 2 different alternatives, you can compare and decide what's better for you and go make your case to your parents, okay? When students are done, distribute the Who's Right worksheet to each group and have them answer the questions as a team. Who is right? Who is right? Nick or Sam?
Sam.
Raise your hand. Who do you think's right?
Sam.
Sam? To debrief this part of the activity with the whole class, first have the students identify the maximum yield for the 2 different options over the course of 6 years. Letting the land lie fallow every other year versus planting on all the land. Sam, or Samantha's property right, or the fact that she owns the land and can realize a return from selling it if she keeps it productive, is what makes it in her best interest to produce fewer bushels and not farm all the land every year. Nick, on the other hand, has no property right and therefore has no incentive to care about the quality of the land at the end of the 6-year time period. If he lets any land lie fallow, he reduces the amount of income he can earn. For this reason, Dad should decide that both children are right. They face different incentives and different opportunity costs. As a side note, your students may bring up the fact that Samantha and Nick might face other non-monetary incentives, like getting along with each other. Acknowledge that non-monetary factors like emotional ties can change how people define their best interests and may very well produce different behavior than would occur if the parties in the simulation were strangers. The second part of this activity allows the students to transfer what they've learned in the simulation to the collectivization of agriculture in the Soviet Union. Have them work in their small groups to identify the similarities and differences between Samantha's situation and the collective farms and Nick's situation and the collective farms. When they've filled out the tables comparing and contrasting the situations, explain that over time, the practice evolved in the Soviet Union of allowing peasants to keep small private garden plots, or at least ignoring that they did. Ask the students to use their understanding of incentives and property rights to predict the use, level of care, and level of output in private lots compared to the collective fields. Encourage them to make a table to illustrate the comparisons as they've done before in this lesson. So was it in their interest to preserve that land and make sure that it would be more productive into the future, or was it in their interest to get as much as they could from that land right now? Right. Property rights are a powerful incentive, and they make a big difference, especially when we're talking about something like farmers. And so whether we're talking about Nick and Sam or farmers in the Soviet Union, property rights and the incentives that come with them shed a lot of light on this. This activity illustrates how the existence of clearly defined property rights creates incentives for owners to direct their property to its highest valued use. In the absence of those property rights, problems such as the overuse and depletion of land occur. Property rights are powerful incentives that, like other incentives, influence human behavior, for better or worse.